Now, before I go any further, I'm going to take a moment to tell you about my dad. One thing my dad likes to do is humiliate me in front of people, and his favorite thing to humiliate me about is my taste in women. No matter how hot a girl I date may be, he'll tell other people that she's a dog. It doesn't matter who she is, and he'll tell her too, to her face, that every girl I date is hideous, and he'll smile his shit-eating smile at the look on her face. And that's just a little background before I get to the story about him and my mom to set up the punchline. Long ago, when we lived in Ireland, and that was my parents, my younger brother, and me, my younger brother brought a friend of his around, a girl from Belfast. She looked rather like a potato, and not just because of her shape, but the freckles. Freckles are fine, I think, and looking like a potato is fine too, if you have that inner beauty that shines through. But this girl was an evil bitch, so in this case it wasn't fine. She came on to me, but the interest wasn't mutual, and since I didn't want to rub my brother the wrong way by insulting his friend, I told her privately that we could not date because she was his friend and he had made it very, very clear that I was to keep my hands off of his friend. So I'm sorry, but our stars are crossed. She seemed to accept that until my cousins came to visit. Remember my cousins from the beginning of the story? And they were quite taken with her because of her being an opera singer, like my brother, and when they heard she spoke fluent Italian, they told her all about the trip we were going to take together for 2 weeks throughout Italy and the Med. And they invited her along. She looked at me, and a cunning look came into her malevolent, pig-like eyes. "But Evan's not coming too?" she asked, "'cause he's singing all month." "Well," my cousin Eric said, "he'll just be with us in Corsica and Sardinia. And you know when in the cartoons the bad guy's eye gets this gleam, a tiny pinpoint of light goes ding and he smiles evilly? Yeah, it looked exactly like that." So, my mom decided not to come along this time because she and my dad were fighting over something or other, and we traveled through Italy and had a blast up until arriving in Civitavecchia on the coast where Dad's boat was docked. And there she was. Wearing these white capri pants and dock shoes and a super, super tight shirt with a navy blue anchor on it and big-ass sunglasses and a little captain's hat with another little anchor on it, this time in gold. My dad was surprised, but my cousins were delighted to see her and explained to Dad that they'd invited her along. "Hope you don't mind, Uncle Ron." It began that very day, the wooing of me by her. If I was below in my bunk, she'd come and try to talk to me. If I was coming through the companionway to get up to the salon, she'd position her massive bulk in my way, so I'd have to squeeze past and rub my manhood against her. She'd try to kiss me. At first I was polite. But eventually, I had to explain to her that it just wasn't going to happen. No way, never. I was as easy on her as I could have been. Naturally, she felt rejected, and since I was hanging out with my brother and my cousins all the time, she spent time with my dad. They were always walking 50 paces ahead of us and sitting next to each other wherever we went. And I was happy because she was not hanging around me. Until that night when we were in Monaco. I have to call a quick timeout because this is so funny I have to throw it in. We were in a discotheque in Monaco, the kind of club where I spent 300 frickin' euro on 6 drinks and wasn't even tipsy. And I made out with this smoking hot Chinese orthodontist chick that was there for the dental conference, and I did it by telling her dorky boyfriend that my father was a guy that had invented braces. He was fawning all over my poor dad, who hadn't a clue what was going on, and Dr. Juleng and I made it very clear to the potato what kind of women were my type. Later, when the boyfriend came back all disappointed and took Juleng out of my life forever, I went back to the dance floor with my older brother and our cousins. While Madonna's new hit single was playing, these 2 blonde chicks came over to dance with me. I couldn't believe my luck. They both seemed really into me and were making me look very good for the MySpace photos Eric was surreptitiously taking. At least until. One of them leaned in and shouted into my ear in a French accent that they wanted to spend the night with me in my hotel. Without even asking my name. I'm not staying in a hotel, I said politely. I'm staying on my dad's boat. Oh. Paused. We would like to spend the night with you on your dad's boat then. I had to laugh, and then I remembered that little bit of French that I'd learned from watching Eddie Izzard and putting the subtitles on, and was so happy I had an opportunity to use it. I said, "Qu'est-ce que vous dites? Sexe pour l'argent? Vous êtes un putain." And her eyes slid off to one side for a second as she did a facial shrug and that yes-no tilting of her head before saying, We. So I think that was funny, and if you don't understand, you can Google it. Anyway, we were back on the boat in the cockpit, all chilling with nightcaps and chit-chatting, and my dad was sitting in his deck chair, and the potato was in hers next to, but kind of catty-cornered to him, sitting there with her eyes like a toad's, regarding me coldly. Dad was talking. No surprise there, he's always talking. In fact, he hates it when someone else is talking. And he was in the middle of telling us something or other about the Battle of the Dardanelles. No joke, he was always redirecting a conversation to the topic of war. And she slipped off her dock shoes and lifted her tree trunk legs to put her swollen feet in his lap. And while all the rest of our eyebrows jumped, he laid a tender hand on one of her feet and stroked it as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Skip ahead, skip ahead, skip ahead. Dad broke up with Mom but didn't get divorced until many years later. While they were separated and Dad was living with the potato in Sardinia, he and his mistress found themselves with child. Now, this is one of the lesser of two evil choices that my dad had to make, and he managed to choose a third and downright ridiculous greater evil. Rather than give birth to an illegitimate baby, Dad coerced my younger brother into marrying his friend. Their spawn would grow up knowing his own father as the father of his mother's husband. And despite my dad's angry condemnation of that movie Green Card because of its moral turpitude, my dad would condemn anything if it was not very, very moral, he tried to use this awful marriage to get a green card for the potato. Keep in mind this was the strict disciplinarian who always insisted on doing the right thing because it was the right thing to do. My brother was bribed handsomely with promises that were never kept, like a nice car and a nicer apartment, and one of the conditions was that their wedding be kept a deep, dark secret. Dad agreed and then publicized it all over their city. He invited everyone they knew, even the dockmaster of the marina, and embarrassed my poor brother. The Sardinians were all very happy for the young couple and then horrified to see Dad walking around holding hands with the bride. He lost the respect of everyone they knew and now blames his lack of friends on the treachery and fickleness of inferior people. So here's the funny part, at least to me. That old bastard, who was disgusted by every beautiful woman I ever dated, had a baby with someone who wasn't good enough for me.